Hi guys, welcome to Inspirational Explorer. Today we'll be starting our first class in graphic design, the 2024 bootcamp Introduction to Graphic Design. So I believe you will enjoy your time here. I will be going deep into the theoretical aspect. I'll just highlight things that I feel are most important for us to learn. So please just follow through as I just guide us through the important aspects of this course. If you want to have the theoretical aspect, you can go online and search more for that. Graphic design generally, probably before I come to the importance of design, graphic design generally is the heart of communication. It has to do with communicating your idea, your perspective, using illustration, photography, typography, and other tools to communicate your intended message to the users. So you can study more on that. Yeah, I will just focus on things that are practical. So speaking of the importance of design, graphic design principles are essential for creating visual appealing and effective design. They enhance visual communication, ensure consistency and harmony, guide focus and hierarchy, and improve functionality and usability. By following these principles, designer can produce professional, cohesive, and impactful design that effectively convey their messages to the audience. So, what this one is saying in a nutshell is that the principle are things that guide us as a designer to make sure that we communicate it in hierarchy. It is appealing, such that it has a good functionality, it serves a purposeful um, cause. Yes. So, speaking of usability, that one, when we speak of the UI designer, they have to design in a way that it is usable. If the person that designed your phone screen do not give it a proper thought through to make it usable for you, you wouldn't love it. So these are the things that just make sure that we are on course. Introduction to design elements and principles. Design elements includes line, shape, color, texture, space, form, and typography. We are going to talk more about this in the next slide. They are the building blocks of visual design. So they guide the viewer's eye, convey mood, add depth, and organize elements, creating visual, compelling, and effective design. If you look at this very page that you are looking at on your screen, you'll see that design element is being applied, such as line, shape, color, texture, space, form, and typography. We will talk more about that. Why design principles? Don't forget that design elements are building blocks. It's just like a constructor that want to build a house. You want to lay, you start from the foundation, you get gradually. That's how design elements works. Why design principles are fundamental guidelines, including balance, contrast, alignment, repetition, hierarchy, and unity. These are the things that you must follow. As much as you are laying the blocks, you must follow some certain architectural structure so as to have a meaningful structure you get. They ensure design are visually appealing, effectively communicated, because you might have the elements and you might not put the principles in place. You won't effectively communicate what you intended to and provide a cohesive and harmonious user experience. Explanation of design elements. So let's start with what we saw in the previous play. Design elements are the fundamental building blocks of visual design. They include line shapes, color, texture, space, form, and typography. Line creates structure and guide the viewer's eyes. If you look at the way I arrange this structure, you can see that there was an image by the side, their text aligned to one side and the other. We'll talk more about all of this. So color conveys mood and emotion, texture adds depth, and tactical quality. Space organizes elements, form adds dimension, and typography communicates through style and text arrangement. Together, these elements work to create visually compelling and effective design. So the elements of designs, don't forget them. I mentioned a few here: line, shape, color, texture. So let's go in depth into them. Elements of design. Line. A line is a mark made by a tool, like a pen tool or brush. By the time we start doing the practical class, you will get to understand what the pen tool is and what the brush is. This tool can be used to draw a line. The concept you see here, this one is made by pen tool. This is also made by pen tool. This is also made by pen tool. For some reason, this line is off the screen. I'm so sorry about that. There's supposed to be a thick line here. This is a thin line. You could say the example of the type of lines that we have: straight line, curved line, thick line, thin line. So when you see design, you see different type of line. What is the use? Line guides the viewer eye, creates texture or divine shape. So they make sure they guide you through the process. So
The
one
second,
process of design is shape. The element. I don't know why my screen is going up. Just give me a minute.
and that is back to normal. Just as I said earlier, the thick line, you could see that we have a thick line here, the one that is uh, rounded rectangle in nature, and the normal rectangle. So we have the shape. A shape is a closed line. Shapes can be geometric or organic. You can see different type of shapes that we have. We all know this shape. We have the square, we have the circle, we have the triangle, we have the leaves. Shapes creates pattern, symbol, and form. So you can see the kind of structure that this triangle created here. You see the kind of structure that leaves created here. So when we combine shapes together, they tend to give us pattern, they tend to give us symbols, they tend to give us form. So that's one of the use of shape in design. Element of design, color. Color is how light is reflected off objects. Your color really matters in design. You see that in this design we have a consistency of color combination, the gradient color style. When you are designing, most people do say that just use maximum of two colors, you get, or three colors, maximum of two font, three fonts. We'll still get to that. But basically, you could see that I put something up here called HSL. That is hue, the saturation, and the light. So this hue has to do with the main color. If I have a slider here and I select any of this color, either red, yellow, green, or whatever color I might choose to work with here, is going to be this color selection. So whatever color you see here, these are just the hue. But once I come to saturation, saturation determines the intensity, how sharp it will be or how faded it will be. While the light determines how dark or how bright it will be. So for this color, there's something we call color theory, although I won't be going much deep into that. Color theory, we have to talk about the different kind of use of color, what color really does. Colors evokes emotion, you get. If you look at what I wrote here, color evokes emotions, highlight elements, create harmony. Whenever I want to create an harmonious form of design, we can use any form of this design, either a complementary color or analogous color. You don't just pick color and use them anyhow. You have to make sure that they communicate something. You don't just pick color and just put in design. Does it resonate with the brand you are designing for? Does it resonate with the happening? For instance, now if I choose color red, you tend to know that okay, probably it's communicating a sign like probably danger or caution. You get, or for some reason you get. So there is something that it has to do with color. So we have monochromatic color, just a single color. But I don't think there is someone that will use just a single color throughout the whole design. Although we might have seen situation like that, but you get to mix color a little while. Complementary color. This is when you use color that complements each other, color that goes together. You can see right here, I have my color selected. Over here, analogous color, you could see the three combinations of color, but stay together. They work hand in hand together. If you use this on design to still stand out. Triadic color, you can see that we have the red selected, blue selected, and yellow selected. The combination of these three will make a good design. So we have the tetradic color. So we have the four pattern around here. That's the way color works. Element of design, we have texture. Under texture, texture is the surface quality of a shape. So if you look at this now, we have the smooth texture, we have the rough texture. In your design, you need to determine what type of texture you will have. If you remember one of the design that I pulled up then, the one I sent to us, I think one yellow color that has a female sitting. I'll try to put it on the screen so you can see what I'm saying. You could see that that has a rough texture background, but the very first design we did that I sent to us as the call to the boot camp, that has a very smooth texture. So the texture, it determines the mood, what you want to communicate. It adds depth and interest, making design feel more realistic. So it helps the design to become alive. You get. So space, element of design. Speaking of space, space is very, very expedient. It can't be overemphasized that you need space in your design to make it look nice. If you look at this design now, you see the way there is a lot of spacing around the design here. So space has a way of adding beauty to your design. You don't have to choke it all up. You don't have to. One thing I love about design is minimalistic. I don't like a design whereby we have to put complex or a lot of words there. Let there be space. Imagine being in a room, right? And you are all choked in that room. There's no breathing space. Will you love that kind of room? But a room that is spacious, you will tend to have flex. You tend to enjoy the structure of that room. You tend to enjoy everything there. So that's the same thing with design. Design, let it be spacious. Space is the area around and between elements. We have the positive spacing and we have the negative spacing. So when we speak of this positive spacing, is the content or subject of the design. If you look at this us right here, if I cover this cap and you can't see the cap, initially you won't know that this thing has can create a kind of, sorry about that, you won't know that this thing can create a kind of picture that has a rider on it. You will have just thought that okay, the horse is having some kind of leg and over here, but your mind, there is nothing here. There is nothing here at all. But your mind automatically fill the space. That's the negative spacing. While this one that you can see, obviously here, they are the positive spacing. So I said the positive spacing or black space as it's called refers to the area in a design occupied by this main subject or element. If you look at this tree now, the main subject or element, right, from the branch to the leaves, yes, you can see that this part of design attract attention and carry visual weight. But when you come to negative spacing, so sorry.
When we come to negative spacing, this was updated, but I don't know why it's still misbehaving. Just pardon me. Just a minute. Speaking of which, when we speak of negative spacing, it or white spacing, it refers to the empty or open area around and between the subject or element in a design. Negative space is often used to create shapes, add emphasis, and improve readability. So you get it add emphasis and it also improve readability. It creates shape. Just as I said, you can see the shape that it's created automatically for us as if there's a rider at the back of this horse. When you look at this space here, the negative space around it, even the negative space within it, it creates the structure. It just automatically adds structure. The negative space around and the negative space within. If you look at this design, there are negative space around and there are negative space within. So don't choke up your design. It helps your design stand out.
So we're speaking of seven basic principles of graphic design.
Please, if you've not been paying attention before, I want you to pay close attention now because here is where um, many people get the concept of design wrong. Seven basic principles of graphic design. However, if you research on Google, you might get different tone of basic principles of design. That's because design is wide. But the most important thing is to get the message. So that's what I'll be doing for us, yeah, or with us rather. Design principles are guidelines that help us arrange the elements in a pleasing way. Here are the key principles. We have the principles of design, which are balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, proportion, right, unity. You might be wondering that was all of this. Just follow me closely as I explain. Balance. Balance is how the elements are arranged to create stability. It can be symmetrical, evenly balanced, or asymmetrical, balanced by different elements. Balance is how elements are arranged to create stability. Look at it symmetrical arranged. When they are symmetrically arranged, you can see that we have each of these shape being equal and having the same concept, the same balance, the same placement. But if you look at the way we arrange asymmetrically, it's being arranged differently. You can see that this is looking different from this is looking different from this is looking different from this. They are not forming the unified system as this. However, they still give us the same concept that we have as this. That's where balance comes in. Some persons might arrange their design to look so aligned, so patterned, so unique the way they want it all arranged. But then we might still have it distributed, but then still give us the same result. I don't know whether you get that concept. If you have any question or clarity, you can always use the comment section or you come back to the class. Let's address it over there. So, so
Just
I failed to mention that if you have any question, you can always make use of the comment section. Before the class started, I should have made mention of that. Or you can reach out to us on the group and make your question known to us so that we can attend to them. Thank you. So back to the business. Contrast now. The contrast is the difference between elements. It helps to make one element stand out from the other. If you look at this now, you can tell instantly that there is one element that is different from this. We have the color contrast, whereby we might have different shades of color, and one color is different. We can have red, blue, we can have green, yellow, you get. And this is it. Just imagine the traffic light. You know what they stand for. So look at the size contrast. You can see that these two are just standing slim or smaller compared to this. You can see that this is outstanding. So example is black text on a white background, just the way we have it here. You can see a black text here and the white background here. That is what contrast does, separating the element from the subject. Use contrast draws attention and highlights key area. The moment you saw this concept, instantly you could tell the difference. Looking at this as well, you can tell which one is different. So it draws your attention instantly. So when designing, learn to apply contrast. Never forget when designing, create balance in your design. Make sure everything is well arranged. Either you want to go asymmetrically or you want to go symmetrically. Then make sure that your contrast, there is contrast. Emphasis. So let's say you see that this is one of the things that you've been observing since you started the design. Whenever there is an headline, we have emphasis, the way it stand out. So emphasis make a part of design stand out and show its importance. You need to create that kind of attention that, okay, this is what we are seeing now. This is where we are calling your attention to. Example, a bold headline on a web page. Yes, whenever you get to web page, the landing page, or once you open Google, you will see that it stand out on its own. Example of bold font emphasis. You can see the bold fonts that we'll be using from the beginning of this course. Emphasis of color contrast. You see that you could pick that this one is different from others. So emphasis gives viewer attention to the most important parts. So whatever you know that is the most important part for your viewer, you want to call your viewer attention to, you make it stand out. So movement. Movement refers to the part the viewer eye takes through a composition. We could see that in this course, we show you the theoretical aspect, we show you a practical view of it. So that is what movement does. It takes you around. So in the example below, movement is created by slightly curved line. You see that, and the overlapping colors. You can see. So
Both
effect enhance the movement because the line are unstable and the gradient blocks the line instead of being static. You can see the way the movement goes. You could tell that you are coming from here down to this place, down to this toe. So that's how movement goes. It you give your viewers a kind of perspective to follow. They are high, in Nigeria, right? Or West. Let me just use the western part of the world. We read from what left to right. And that's why you see that most of the time we place our subject by the left and the other focus is by the right. So that movement, you follow that pattern. Proportion is the size relationship between elements.
you can see that we have this element here. There is a constant relationship between them. We do not bring it this way, not making this one bold. You want to make everything big. No, no. You get to give them proportions. You tend to assign a proportion to them. You don't just make everything big. You don't just make everything of the same size. You don't make everything of the same weight. You give them different proportion. Even in your text, some have to be light, some have to be thick. You get bold. You don't just make everything like no orderliness. You can see the way this one is. This one is big. This one's still big. This one's still big. Everything wants to stand out. It can't work that way. You need to arrange them by proportion. You can see the way we arrange our design here, even though it's just a presentation. Proportion helps to create a sense of scale and importance. You get a large image next to a small image or block of text. You can see the way they are arranged. You can say asymmetrically, right? Okay, so speaking of right, is the repetition of elements to create a pattern or flow. You can see that we have a repetition here of
Triangle. We have a repetition of triangle here. You can see the way this is being made to form a pattern here. We have three triangles, then we have two turning upside down. So a series of repeating triangles rhymes creates consistency and unity. It creates consistency. They are not disorganized. So you repeat something just the way we have spacing here, the space between this and this. If I have to create another text again, I give it the same level of space. So it's like bringing something into a consistent flow. But it's not really speaking of consistency, but they are the way they are being repeated and be sustained. So unity, looking at unity is how well the elements work together to create a cohesive design. Using the same color scheme throughout a brochure, you can see the way I created this triangle, I give them the same gradient throughout. Unity makes the design feel whole and complete. So you don't just use scattered color. You don't just use scattered pattern. So you will notice that in this course, the color scheme, the pattern are following each other. Still speaking of unity,
You
so
can see
see that in the arrangement there is unison. Remember when we use this example, right? I don't know if you can recall when we use this example, proportion. You get that right. Yes. So speaking of unity as well, you don't just arrange something and make it look scattered. They have to follow a uniform system. See this, we have the bottle, the cup, the plate. But look at here, this angle, we are having O turning downward. You can see this phone is facing upward here. You don't make it now go the other way. You maintain a consistent flow. There have to be unity in your design. So let's say recap. Remember we spoke about element of design. By now you should be able to mention some specific elements of design that we have, such as line, shapes, color, etc. And we have principles of design. So by now you should be able to mention the principles of design that we have without mixing them from your balance to your contrast, from your contrast. You'll be able to mention them without having to mix them up. So that is what we've discussed today. We've discussed how design can be created. So by the time we start doing a practical example, you will know the essence of this class. So if you have any question, I would like you to ask your question. You need clarity on something that we've explained earlier, just put a comment below. I'm going to attend to them. However, if you can't leave a comment here, you can come to the WhatsApp platform. Let's have our discussion. Thank you. See you in the next one.